over 70,000 people died in the year 2019 of drug overdoses. Now compare that to the 1,000 people that died at the hands of police. Judging by those numbers, you would expect to know which one got the majority of news coverage. But sadly, this is not the case. But why not? You know, that's a question that I want to ask, but that's not what this is about, right? I have my opinions, but I'm not an expert when it comes to that sort of thing, right? However, when it comes to
censored
and anything relating to
censored,
I tend to think of myself as a pretty knowledgeable person when it comes to that particular subject. So with the knowledge I do have and the little platform that I have, I'm going to go ahead and save some lives. But before we get into that, I do want to say a rest in peace to Chris, Martin, Carlos, and Weddle. Because of them, I learned my lesson. I learned exactly how deadly this stuff is. Now, are those the only friends that I lost to heroin overdose, drug overdose? Of course not. Definitely not. But out of 3 of those guys were my everyday running partners. The guys I'd hit the streets with. We'd go to the same connect, cook up in the same spot, do what we did, fix up for the longest time. And it trips me out because there was nothing different between me and them except the fact that I stopped before they did. Not by much. And they all died within 6 months of each other. The youngest of them 19. Chris. What trips me out more, other than the fact that I survived, is that those guys that died, they all died within 15 feet of somebody else. They all died in front of somebody else. They had somebody watching them as they slipped into overdose. And they only called the ambulance once they succumbed to the symptoms and consequences of the overdose. It shouldn't have happened like that. Not at all. Now, with all my years of using and abusing, I have seen quite a few people slip into an overdose. But I've always been the type to trip out, jump to conclusions, think of the worst case scenario. So I'm usually the guy that called 911 regardless. And I save people. I've never had anybody
censored
in front of me. There was one guy whose heart stopped, but with the help of the 911 operator, I was able to give him CPR and saved his life. The ambulance got there and gave him some
Narcan,
brought him out of it. But the fact that my friends died in front of other people shouldn't have happened. There's a lot of information out there that can be helpful, but there's also a lot of information that can hurt you or somebody else. People not knowing all the facts. So what happens is, when people get the wrong information, they follow that information rather than doing the proper thing. There's a few hood tales and hearsay about fixing somebody up with milk. That's one that I've heard a lot. They say
fixing
somebody with milk into their veins will somehow snap somebody out of an overdose. People believe,
get ready for this,
since the dope was cut with lactose, putting milk into the body would dilute the amount of heroin within the bloodstream, and that the calcium would bind with the heroin and the body would get rid of it. Complete bullshit.
Crap.
Or they thought that if you drank a whole lot of milk, and it'd also bring you out of the overdose. And that goes back to ingesting some poisonous substances. They recommend drinking milk to help get it out of the body or whatever the case. But none of that works, ladies and gentlemen. Neither will putting somebody in an ice bath or running your knuckles across their chest to activate certain reflexes and things like that. None of that helps. Doing stuff like that, you're only delaying proper medical treatment. And in these instances, seconds count. Now, it isn't just bad information that causes delays in reaching out for help. You gotta understand that both crime and addiction go hand in hand. So the fear of calling 911 oftentimes is the worry that they or the person overdosing is going to be charged with a crime once the police and paramedics show up. But what isn't widely known is that in 40 states within the United States have what are called Good Samaritan laws, or Good Samaritan Acts. Now the law varies from state to state, but basically it protects those involved with the overdose emergency, whether it's the person overdosing or the person calling in, or whatever the case. Now I do want to make this clear. Okay, it does vary from state to state. Some states give you full immunity. They protect you from being revoked on probation or parole, or being violated from pretrial services. Others might protect you for minor drug possession. So I guess my best advice is that if you or somebody you know is a user, you get real familiar with those laws. Because like I mentioned, those old wives' tales about milk and ice baths and things like that aren't going to save anybody. What is going to save somebody is immediate emergency help from a medical professional, and perhaps Narcan. Alright, but Narcan doesn't replace immediate medical attention. Now, for those of you who don't know what Narcan is,
according to PuraHealthcarePA.com/what is Narcan/. Narcan is part of a class of pharmaceuticals known as opioid antagonists. Opioid antagonists like Narcan block the effects of pain-relieving and highly addictive drugs such as heroin, morphine, and oxycodone. When administered quickly and properly, Narcan is used to counteract the effects of opioids taken in life-threatening quantities. Narcan can be administered by healthcare professionals as well as people trained to give the drug in critical situations. While doctors may put Narcan directly into veins or muscles, others use it outside the hospital or office settings in the form of a nasal spray. When administered quickly after an opioid overdose, Narcan prevents the body's mu, delta, and kappa receptors from forming attachments with opioids, which arrest the brain and nervous system.
It's real easy to use. I mean, that's the whole purpose. That's what it's marketed as. It's, a nasal spray. Alright, and it's designed for use outside of a medical setting. It basically contains naloxone in it, and naloxone works by attaching itself to the opioid receptors in the brain, which bump off the original drug that was in there, causing the overdose. Right? Now, when that happens, the overdose reverses, and the effects of the drug reverse as well, which does mean you're going to go into instant withdrawals as soon as you wake up, but it's going to pull you out of that overdose. And even if the person does wake up, or even if you do, snap out of that overdose once the Narcan's administered, you still got to call for emergency help. Actually, calling for emergency help is the first thing you should have done, because it's only a temporary fix, and even at that, you're still in danger of falling back into an overdose. But again, I'm not a professional. I'm not a medical doctor or anything like that, so I'm not going to tell you more information than what I know. There's plenty of information out there on the internet. Look it up. I mean, if you got time to listen to this, and if you know somebody that's a user of opiates, or if you're a user of opiates, take some time, do some research. Alright, get to know where you can get access to Narcan at. Look up your state's Good Samaritan laws. You could save a life. I couldn't save Carlos' life. I couldn't save Chris's life. I couldn't save Martin Weddle's. But maybe with this information, I can save somebody's life. I was spared for some reason. So, let me pass that on. Anyways, guys, sorry this video was a little bit serious, but I had to be serious with it. You know what I mean? This is a very serious subject, and it's near and dear to me. So, I'm back. Obviously I got my computer running. I got my programs up and running again. I'm a little bit rusty when it comes to, getting everything organized and set up the way I want. But I'm back. Alright, I'm going to be dropping more content, kind of stuff you love, and some new shit. You know what I mean? But anyways, that's all I got for right now. Much love. Dub out.